How easy is it to call rogue and villain, and that wittily? It is easy to use invective as against using refined language to verbally execute a victim. But how hard to make a man appear a fool, a blockhead, or a knave without using any of those opprobrious terms. This passage has been taken from a discourse concerning the original and progress of satire, written by John Dryden. Dryden, a political satirist, in this passage extols the workmanship of a subtle satirist who employs refinement, not malice, to make his point. To spare the grossness of the names, and to do the thing yet more severely, is to draw a full face, and to make the nose and cheeks stand out, and yet not to employ any depth of shadowing. Here a comparison is drawn with an artist, so adept at his craft that he can paint a portrait with the features standing out in sharp relief but without the use of shadowing. Such should be the expertise of the satirist, using wit and humor for raillery and leaving behind no visible mark of the mockery but in the conscience. This is the mystery of that noble trade, which yet no master can teach to his apprentice. He may give the rules, but the scholar is never the nearer in his practice. The art of subtle satire cannot be taught. Neither is it true that this fineness of raillery is offensive. Satire tempered down with humor is certainly more digestible. A witty man is tickled while he is hurt in this manner, and a fool feels it not. The victim who is witty knows and almost appreciates the criticism, and the fool simply lacks the self-knowledge and power of comprehension to know that he has been attacked. The occasion of an offense may possibly be given, but he cannot take it. Although he has been mocked, the victim of a mockery seldom takes offense, if the mockery has been administered in a refined manner. If it be granted that in effect this way does more mischief, that a man is secretly wounded, and though he be not sensible himself, yet the malicious world will find it out for him, yet there is still a vast difference betwixt the slovenly butchering of a man, and the fineness of a stroke that separates the head from the body, and leaves it standing in its place. It may be argued that subtle satire also injures deeply. The victim may be inwardly hurt, or if he is unaware of the attack on him, the malicious world is certain to enlighten him. Yet, a refined raillery may be preferable to blatant satire. A crude satirist may slovenly inflict strike upon strike on his victim in a most brazen and repulsive manner, quite like the 18th century public executioner, Jack Ketch. A subtle satirist is an artist, bringing wit and honor to the aid of his critique, inflicting his attack with such dexterity that on the surface nothing seems changed. A man may be capable, as Jack Ketch's wife said of his servant, of a plain piece of work, a bare hanging, but to make a malefactor die sweetly was only belonging to her husband. The opinion of Jack Ketch's wife about her husband's skill at his occupation indicates merely the fondness and blind partiality of a wife. Spoken in praise for the skill of a slovenly executioner who as a rule botched every job, her words are highly deceptive and meant to be humorous. I wish I could apply it to myself, if the reader would be kind enough to think it belongs to me. The speaker likes to think that he is a subtle satirist, and he also hopes that his readers think the same. A notorious public executioner. In the first two sentences of the passage, lines 1-4, the passage draws a distinction between obvious invective and indirect satire. This is because he clearly mentions that the ease of using invective as against using subtle language to verbally execute a victim. Esoteric knowledge and common understanding would not work because the author did not mention that using subtle language to verbally execute someone is known to few. Coarse speaking and inferior painting is not the correct answer because painting has not been mentioned in the given lines. Speaking and writing is not the correct answer because no distinction between the two has been mentioned. Wit and humor does not work either because nothing about humor has been mentioned. In the sentence beginning, "to spare," lines 4-7, the speaker makes use of an analogy because the author draws a comparison between subtly verbally executing a victim with drawing a portrait with a complete nose. eyes and ears that stand and yet not employing shadowing. It is not an understatement because the author does not under-exaggerate anything. It is not hyperbole because nothing has been exaggerated. It is not a syllogism because it is not a subtle argument that the author makes. It is not an allegory because the author did not put the argument in a different situation. In line 8, that noble trade refers to the fineness of raillery, line 11, because the author refers to the noble trade of subtlety of verbal execution. The author does not refer to calling rogue and villain as esoteric, nor does he refer to employing any depth of shadowing as a noble trade. The other two answer choices do not work because of similar reasons. The sentence, neither, offensive, line 10-11, answers a possible objection because the author wants to make it clear to everyone that subtle verbal execution is not offensive. The other answer choices do not make sense because the author does not attempt to do any of those things in the given lines. The contrast drawn between the witty man and the fool, lines 11-13, emphasizes the witty man's appreciation and the fool's lack of comprehension because a witty man, upon learning that he has been mocked, will appreciate the joke more than take offense to it, and the fool will not understand the joke. The other answer choices are not correct because the author does not attempt to do any of those things in the given lines. In the sentence, if, place, lines 14-20, the author raises an objection and then overrides it with an assertion because he asserts that a witty man would appreciate subtle mockery. The other answer choices do not work because they are not mentioned in the given lines. Admiration verging on envy best describes the author's attitude because the author would feel jealous of Jack Ketch because the intense admiration Ketch's wife felt for her husband. The other answer choices do not work because they do not portray the author's feelings. In the context of the passage, the author would mean for the audience to find the words of Jack Ketch's wife humorous although they are actually deceptive. The other answers are not correct. The speaker draws comparisons between wit and dullness the fool and the witty man, ordinariness and excellent satirist and executioner, coarseness and refinement a subtle satirist and a coarse executioner, and skill and ineptitude the satirist and the executioner. Maliciousness and compassion are not contrasted in the passage.